It is podcasting time. Glenn Power is here from PowerWorks Garage. In fact, we are at PowerWorks Garage. It's the PowerWorks Podcast. We're talking about cars, the automotive industry, stuff that's on your mind, and essentially solving all of your problems in a forward or backward way. That's what we do here on the PowerWorks
Sometimes
Podcast.
Sideways.
Yeah.
Sometimes donutting.
Hey, no matter how you're listening to us, no matter how you're watching us, because we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, video and audio, and across the podcast verse, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you're feeling. If you're listening to us on radio 100.3, that's Talk 100.3 in Dubai, welcome. Get in touch with those folks through the WhatsApp or your SMS. Let us know what's going on in your life. Let us know how your ride is. Let us know what you're thinking. We would love to hear from you. And on that note, let's kick off this program because there's lots going on.
There is a lot going on. There's a heck of a lot going on. I wanted to start with the Jaguar recall.
Yeah, now what is that all about? And you know, as soon as you mentioned this, I remember you talking about your father-in-law.
Yeah.
And this is a couple of years ago. So some of the folks who've been listening to this podcast for a while will remember that you were in the UK. Father-in-law is thinking of getting an electric Jaguar. So you go and check it out. You weren't totally sold on it, but you were really not sold on the customer service.
Shocking.
Yeah, absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
But now they've had a recall.
Yeah, and I read the article that I read was a US-based article, and there are 8 reported individual cases of them catching fire. No injuries reported to any living things, but 8 instances of a fire, which is worrying.
Yeah.
And there's over 6,000 of these things out there, and they've all been recalled.
So to me, this is a huge issue when you've got electric vehicles, batteries, and fires. And that's a lot of recalls.
I mean, everybody understands that with internal combustion, you know, you're carrying around fuel, whether that's LPG, diesel, petrol, whatever it may be. We all know that you know, particularly in the case of petrol, we've all seen that. I mean, that burns fast.
Yeah, well, and you've got oils, and you've got other combustibles. I mean,
and I've seen cars that have been on fire that have come to us when I was at VW, and we had to inspect them and give a reason to the police and the insurance companies could we ascertain why.
Yeah.
And they get hot.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've seen cars that have been on fire and the wheels have started to melt because they get so hot.
Crazy.
But, you know, we've all seen these videos on social media and the news about electrical fires started in EVs, usually when they're on charge. However, as I understand it, these I-Pace ones haven't always just been when they're on charge. They're just catching fire. So, you know, they're just in puddles of molten metal. It's worrying. So 8 instances, and apparently it was over a year ago that the first one happened. So you have to worry that maybe there's going to be some potential issue there for lack of
Well, what do you think's
response.
going on? Like, what do you in your opinion as a mechanic, why would these things be catching fire?
For me, it's probably going to turn out to be an issue with the batteries. Going to turn out to be an issue with the batteries, and they're either not sufficiently venting heat or keeping cool, or the coolant systems are failing. I can't see how it can be anything else. And electrical fires are wild, they're fast, and there's a lot of volts there.
That's the other problem, and I'm really curious with our electric cars what the fire safety mechanisms are, as in, does it instantly shut down? Do they have a fire retardant system built into it? Or
judging by the state of them, no, there's no fire retardant on them at all.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, it's like for Jaguar that could be a big problem because if, let's say, they say that they figure out that it's a fundamental issue with the battery pack. We're speculating.
Yeah, we have
but
no
let's
idea.
say, for example, that's what they say. It's fundamentally an issue with how the battery's put together. 6,000 plus batteries.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's enough to dissuade people from buying
Not
that
just-
particular vehicle.
Not just are we talking about a Samsung Note 7 situation again?
Yeah.
Where people didn't want to buy one then after that and they had to just scrap the whole model and move on. But we're also talking about a Note 7 battery is that big.
Yeah.
You know, it's not big at all. Size of your phone, obviously. Whereas if you're dealing with a car battery, an EV battery, the sourcing of car parts at the moment is difficult as it is.
Yeah.
And lithium batteries and whatever else we need to do, I mean, where are we going to get those from?
God, that's the
Where
big
are they
problem.
going to get 6,000 of those from?
Yeah.
They're just not, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, people aren't going to want them. And the ones that do, they're just going to have to potentially replace the whole thing. I mean, it's you would like to think for everybody's sake that it's just a simple, you know what, we need to put a small inhibitor here that prevents any fires in the future, and great. But I don't see how it can be anything but the battery.
I keep going back to this fire retardant system because all I'm thinking in my mind is kitchens, professional kitchens, industrial kitchens, all have grease fire, grease trap, retardant systems, and if all things go crazy, you know, the gas comes out and it just snuffs all of this fire out. And I just keep thinking, if we've got a system with electric cars where we know this is a potential issue. And like you said, well, we've got internal combustion engines that have the same issues, but maybe not the same type of issue. You think there's got to be something that will just suffocate any fire that starts. And if there isn't, and if we haven't thought of it, maybe we need to be thinking about it at this point in our lives.
I guess the only issue is that whatever you put on there to do this, if you have it as an active system that would react to something with an input, then it needs to have electrical supply.
Yeah, right.
You know, and then you have
the same old problem.
You know, it's like I say that there have been thousands times more internal combustion engine vehicles catch fire over the years than electric vehicles have.
Right,
100 obviously, but this is a problem because it's a branch of the automotive industry, and this is the electric model from Jaguar.
Yeah.
This is their electric car. They have to recall them all. And
do you think this? I mean, Jaguar is recalling them all because they've got this issue. Do you think this puts a flag up for other EV makers to say,
yeah? I mean, you know, we all know Jaguar. They have a close work, obviously, with Land Rover, but they've got a close working relationship with Ford. Therefore, Mazda as well, Volvo. A lot of technology that gets shared across the manufacturers, and it's just the way the economy works. It's the only way to make cars efficiently nowadays. This could mean a lot for, you know, I don't know how similar the I-Pace is to the Volvo EVs. I don't know. Maybe they share a platform, maybe they share a battery. If it turns out to be a battery issue, you would think that a lot of manufacturers use similar, if not the same, batteries.
You would think so. I mean, at this point, you know, you would just think so.
Yeah, it's worrying. It is worrying for any fans or any manufacturers of electric vehicles. It's a big concern, and you are going to have the whole issue. The bigger worry for me, if I'm working for Jaguar Land Rover, is apparently it's over a year since the first one was reported.
A year?
Over a year since the first one. They've had 8 in that time since the first one.
Considering how many vehicles they have.
I worry that they're going to potentially have, especially being that it's in the US, there's going to be some kind of class action, potentially lawsuit here.
Yeah.
You know, look how they went after VW with the emissions thing there.
Yeah.
There's a possibility that you got a class action, because if it turns out, especially if it turns out that all the vehicles that need to be fixed, let's say they do need to be fixed, and it wasn't just a production line error on 8 occasions, it is a fundamental issue with the vehicle. You know, with the way people go about suing people in the US.
Yeah, there's a lot of litigation.
You know, I was driving around in a death trap, and you knew about this 18 months ago, 2 years ago, and you did nothing about it. You know, again, speculation, but I can see that, and that becomes a massive, massive issue. Jaguar are not exactly the most flush with cash manufacturer in the world, are they? So be interesting to see what happens, and hopefully they get through it, and hopefully they can figure it out, and it's nothing, it's simple, and it'd be great if they could put it down to an environmental input rather than a problem with the vehicle, because that would put a lot of confidence back in them. But we'll see how this plays out. Yeah, we haven't had anything really this major, I don't think, for a EV. This is like a proper issue. So we'll see how they deal with it.
Interesting, we're staying on the EVs, and you brought up Volvo. Volvo's got a new vehicle, 2025, coming out, the EX30. And it's going to be the smallest electric SUV that Volvo has made. It's coming in before the C40 Recharge and the XC40 Recharge on both sides and price. So this is tall. This is a tall order for them, but it's a small car aimed at Gen Zs. And I thought this was interesting. Although aimed at the Gen Z, it's still in the US going to come in at $36,000. I know. Took my breath away too, because I'm going, hold on, Gen Z's, small car, big price tag.
Gen Zs don't want to work either, do they?
No, they don't want to work. And are they going to buy? I mean, it's got a claimed range. It's 275-mile range.
And the good thing is, though, that it's small. They only have one of those small fire extinguishers in it. Just a 2 kilo one will do.
If you get a car and driver and you look up XC30, it's a cute little car, and I got to say, when I'm looking at it, I saw Volkswagen ID4 or ID2. I mean, I'm seeing Volkswagen looking at this Volvo. I'm not seeing Volvo
it does
at
look
all.
like an ID, isn't it? Yeah. The Volvos are again, all cars are very similar, but the styling with
pull the Volvo badge off the front, put a Volkswagen badge on it.
The back end is very Volvo.
Yeah,
absolutely. The back end is very Volvo, but the EX30, I just. It seems very expensive, though.
It does.
Very
I thought the same thing.
You know,
I thought the same thing.
I mean, Volvo is ultimately a European. I guess they class themselves as a premium brand.
Yeah, and I get it.
And I think outside of Europe, so particularly in America, North America, they have and they're still classed as a safe car in Europe, but I think there's more of a, because they're not as ubiquitous in the North American market, that they're just seen as the sort of standard bearer for a safe car still. Yeah. Well, so they'll probably attract that money, and then you've got the whole, well, I'm gonna pay for the premium car because it's safe for my delicate Gen Z child to drive around in. So maybe it's not the Gen Z buying it.
Maybe. I mean, I can see a Vermonter with one of these. Whenever I go to Vermont, they've got Subarus and Volvos. And I remember you're talking about, the North American market. I remember, being 15, 16, and that's the era of those nice square.
Yeah, the big square ones, yeah.
And there was an ad coming out at that time where they were rolling a Volvo down a ski hill, and it was trashed. They righted it at the bottom of the hill, got in, started up, and drove away. And that was the message. Like, this car takes a beating. I'm wondering if these new electric cars are the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking
you'd have to hope so.
If the frame is constructed the same, except that you got a lot of these glass roofs now. But if it has the heritage of a Volvo, electric should be even better, because you don't have all the fluids that have to be contained. It could be interesting.
Yeah, well, there are fluids that need containing still. But I think Volvo aren't going to change the way they build a car. I mean, those cars you were referring to, late 80s, 90s, I remember those,
To me, that's a Volvo.
Cool cars, especially the station wagon ones.
Yeah.
And they had the big SIPs, stickers, SIPS, side impact protection system, where they had the big, basically RSJs in the doors, so that if you got T-boned, you were fine. And they've always been known to be safe cars. I mean, I don't know, we in Europe, it's the Euro NCAP, and it's a star scale, like you're rating a film. I think 5 stars is the max. There've been a few French offerings that have got 0 stars, and the quirky, weird, and wonderful world of the French motor car, particularly in the late 90s and early 2000s, but forever, to be fair. But a lot of cars get the 4 and 5 star rating now. And they're also interestingly rated against how safe they are to pedestrians.
Okay, hold on a second. I've never heard this before.
Yeah. Cars get rated on their safety to pedestrians.
So we got 2 ratings that when you go down to your used car lot,
Don't ask anyone there.
or you go and buy a new car, which I've seen a few new ones recently, but you go and buy a new car, the pedestrian rating for impact and the crash test rating. I remember when I was 20 that these crash test ratings you'd be watching and think, oh yeah, that's it. And I still think about how you're going to survive in a vehicle when it crashes. I don't so much think about pedestrians, but does anyone think about that these days?
Everybody.
Okay.
Everybody that makes cars, and they have to. And I've just looked it up on the Euro NCAP site. It's called the Vulnerable Road User Protection.
Vulnerable Road User Protection.
VRU.
So if you're that person who is avoiding the crosswalk and you're jaywalking, you know that you're vulnerable and they're thinking about you. Doesn't mean do it though.
So if you remember a while ago, we've mentioned it a lot, how we were saying that, too many cars are designed in the wind tunnel, and that's why they're all looking very similar. And production methodology has become so sort of well refined that the way of making parts, the efficiency and the design and everything, that a lot of cars do therefore just look the same because of the way things are done. I was watching, and I'm really sorry I can't credit this because I can't remember what it was, but I was watching a sort of mini documentary about the Euro NCAP stuff, and cars get designed, especially in the front end now, a lot with a view as to how they are, particularly European cars, in response to protecting a pedestrian that they hit in an accident. So the Vulnerable Road User Protection, they do a test where, this is just people messing around, right? But they basically just run crash test dummies over all day.
Oh, so man.
The picture on the website I'm looking at here, they're using looks like a Seat Leon, I think. But basically they do a head impact test,
Yikes.
An upper leg impact test, lower leg impact test, and then they test the front collision systems that are designed to detect cars slowing down and applying your brakes. They do that to how well it detects a pedestrian crossing in front of you or a cyclist being in front of you. That's something people don't realise. A lot of people have these front collision warning systems or whatever it may be. Audi's is called Presense, and they've all got different names, but basically they're a radar on the front that's designed to detect something coming into your field of motion, basically. And they test on how sensitive they are. So it's quite easy to pick up a truck. Don't really need a sensitive radar for that. But they test on pedestrians crossing, but they also detect on, the pedestrian when he or she crosses doesn't just stand in front of the car, they're moving, right? Same as a cyclist. A cyclist can be in front of you, but because of the way we pedal, bikes are moving left to right. So again, they test that. But you see some of the impacts on these, and it's worrying. And there was a car in like the 1930s, and there's black and white video that goes around every now and again. You'll see it where they put a catch net on the front of the car.
Okay.
So the cars weren't going super fast then, but brakes were like basically worthless, useless. So this catch net was low down, so it tripped the person up, and they fell back into the net. It was like a bucket off of a JCB, but it had a net in it instead of a steel frame. So people have been thinking about this for almost 100 years, but now it becomes a genuine concern. And there's things like on the Jaguar, the old XKs had pyrotechnic, basically like an airbag, but they were struts on the top of the suspension strut, which would, in the event of an impact with something on the front, in case it was a pedestrian that was then going to hit the front of the car and then smash the windscreen so you couldn't see, the bonnet would pop up at the impact to flick the pedestrian over the top of the car onto the road at 60 miles an hour.
Oh no.
So that it didn't damage, the pedestrian didn't damage the screen, so you could see where you were going.
Okay.
So that's a complete, total forget the pedestrian.
Yeah.
The driver needs to be able to pull over safe.
Oh, man.
So
they've been thinking about this.
They've been thinking about it for a while, but it's, there's tests that people do to check that the car's safe in the event that it hits a person.
Well, there's a whole industry out with the automated emergency braking systems that 2016, there was a lot of talk about this in cars. And I'm thinking 2016, this is a long day in car technology now with the new car technology.
Yeah.
2016 is a long way back.
Car tech is no different to mobile phone tech now.
And they were talking 2016, the industry, and this is the key word in this sentence is the industry was saying, we're going to make this mandatory emergency braking systems. They, of course, didn't do it. I mean, there's a lot of it in there with autonomy, and there's a lot of things that cars are doing, but it's not a mandatory thing. And what you're talking about sounds to me just like this is, it's ripe for this to start now, that every car, if it senses a pedestrian in front of it, is going to stop.
Yeah, there are certain issues, and one of the issues with the emergency brake. Now, if you've driven a car with it,
Yes.
So when it applies, it's quite startling. Usually, there's an alarm and a flash on the dashboard, at least while the operation is in progress. But it's very difficult to override it.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, you're in let's say a car everyone knows. We're in a Golf GTI. A new Golf GTI that's got front collision avoidance on it, and you're driving along and something pulls out and your Golf GTI stops. Let's say you're doing 40 miles an hour, 60 kilometers an hour, whatever you want to say. The Golf GTI is going to stop pretty fast.
Yeah, it's really abrupt, actually, now that I think about this.
Behind you is someone in a Classic or someone in a Nissan Sunny from 1990. That ain't stopping as quick as the GTI, and it wasn't warned, and you haven't done it, the car's done it, so it's been instant 100% brake application. You're getting rear-ended, and guess what? There wasn't anything there. It was just dirt on the sensor or the radar head.
I've seen a lot of rear-end collisions in the last couple of weeks, at least 3 a day, and I'm starting to wonder now that the light has come on a little bit. I'm starting to wonder, are these emergency braking systems, are they in some cases already in place, which they should be, but are they so good that they're stopping the car, but the person beside can't stop fast enough?
Yeah. This has been in the works from the early 2000s. I remember as an apprentice talking about this, because one of the discussions at that time was, should these systems apply the brake lights?
They absolutely have to apply the brake lights.
Right.
They don't, I don't think.
So they do, but the reason there was discussion as to whether they do or they don't is there are some really, really interesting studies. Interesting, use that word subjectively, but I find it interesting there, where they take motorways in the UK highways and they simulate speeds. So in the UK, we have smart motorways where the speed limit can be 70 is the maximum it can be miles an hour. But they have signboards above the road and they're instantly enforceable speed limits, so they can go down as low as 40 miles per hour, even if there is no accident on the road. And they can also open up the hard shoulder. Now, they'll only do that in the load speed limit times, but they won't, to keep traffic moving. And the reason for that is that everybody going at 70 or allowed to go at 70, the queues are longer than then everyone moves along at 40. The reason for that is when someone presses their brake, the cascading effect on that is someone dabs the brake at the front of the queue, the next person presses it harder and for longer, the person behind that harder for longer. So by the time you've got 30, 40 cars back, they come to a stop. How many times have you been on the motorway, you stop, you get going, and you're thinking, there's no blue lights, there's no glass on the road, and nothing's what's going on? It's because somebody's pressed the brake, and it cascades all the way back.
That's every day.
When there's a high volume of traffic, and that's the problem.
Now that, how many lights have gone on with people who are saying, that is my life every day as I commute home.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And even more frustrating when you understand how it's happened. So there was a discussion of, well, should these systems actually, if we've got, so it wasn't the front collision avoidance, it was adaptive cruise control. So adaptive cruise control will maintain your distance to the car in front.
Here's my thing, because now I think I was confusing the emergency braking system, which will put on the brake lights, but my adaptive cruise control, when it is adapting, does it put on the brake lights?
If it doesn't use the brakes, no, obviously.
But it should, because it's slowing down. It's almost like you want it.
Yeah, but it's only the same. It just releases the throttle usually, just backs the throttle off. So
I'm just thinking, as someone behind one of these cars that's adaptive cruising, I'd love to know that, oh yeah, I'm slowing down just a little, like if you're manually taking off the cruise, you tap the brake, gives you a little bit of the red light, and then it.
Yeah, when they apply the brakes because someone pulls in front of you and cuts you up, which never happens. When someone pulls in front and cuts you up and closes that gap quickly, the brakes will be applied by the cruise control system, and it will put the brake lights on because you are braking.
Right.
But it was a genuine. Should we do that or should we not? Because
how's that even a genuine question?
Because again, if you're driving down the road and the brake lights of the car, you're the one at the front putting the lights on, you're going to put the person 50 cars behind to a stop.
Yeah, I hear I get what they're thinking.
Trying to work out basic traffic, and this is like the genesis of basically autonomous driving. This is the genuine application in the early 2000s of autonomous driving. They got the self-parking systems, and there was adaptive cruise control, and all of these things come through to now to the point where there is, fourth and fifth generation autonomous driving, and it's allowed on vehicles in certain states in the US.
This is a funny one. We're talking autonomous driving and some of the features of it that have filtered through to our traditional cars. When electric cars and Tesla first came out, the autonomous driving was all over the news. It's not making the news cycle anymore.
No.
Yet everyone's got some form of autonomous driving in their cars now.
You know what? I think Elon Musk is too smart. And I think Elon Musk has had his eyes opened by the whole Twitter buyout and what he found in the emails. And go and Google the Twitter files if you like. And there's a guy called Matt Taibbi who's done and others, but Matt Taibbi in particular has done an amazing job at showing just how poisoned the news cycle was by certain individual and organizations. And I think Elon Musk has realized that, hang on, autonomous cars are just a sitting duck.
Yeah.
They're a sitting duck. And forgetting all of it, Volvo's entry-level EV is going to be $36,000. What's it going to be with autonomy on it? And are they going to put it on the entry level? But if they're not going to put it on the entry level, they can't put it on them all.
You got to figure it's built in at this point.
It's got to be on all of them.
Yeah. I'm thinking every car that comes out these days has everything on it, and they've just flicked a switch in the software saying don't enable.
In 2006, I was in an A6 all-road estate, Avant, is how they call it, in Milton Keynes, in the UK, with adaptive cruise control, and that had a factory laptop in it that would use GPS, use the adaptive cruise, and drive around roundabouts from a start to a destination without the driver having any input whatsoever.
Wild.
In 2006.
Yeah.
They didn't just give it to the UK training headquarters a day after it was invented. That had been in production for probably a decade by that time, right? So this isn't news to anyone that's been working on it, but the problem is you've got to adopt it, you've got to take it on, and everyone's got to do it at the same time. And I think it's old news now, and there's other things going on in the world, right? What you're going to do, you can't promise people things that you're not necessarily able to deliver on. Elon Musk and Tesla is the example we're using just because we mentioned Tesla being the first EV company that we can genuinely say we know about. There's a lot going on there. There's other stuff going on, and they have maybe, if someone says an electric car, it's a bit like, so I'm from the UK, right? If you're going to use a vacuum cleaner to clean the house, I would say we're hoovering up. Because the first vacuums were made by Hoover.
Yeah, sure. It's like Kleenex. You go get me a box of Kleenex.
You got some.
It's facial tissue.
My kid's got trainers with Velcro on it. It's not Velcro. Velcro was the brand that made it. People say that. So you just get to knowing what it is, right? And I think Tesla are like that with an EV, so they don't really have to keep pushing that anymore. And I think they just need to nail it and get it right. They tried to do the Model 3 for $30,000 and didn't really do that. They messed up on deliveries and everything was, people sleeping on including Elon Musk on the production line floor because there was just so many cars that they needed to get out. So I'm not too worried about if autonomy is taken back.
Yeah.
See, it hasn't, and it's there, but it's got to be a mass adoption of it. Everyone's got to take it on at the same time, and I think that's where the problem is. That is the genuine where the problem is, and who knows how to make the laws for this stuff.
Well, that's the thing. And this to me, policy and regulation are big issues. Policy and regulation is so slow at being rolled out.
Super slower than a term in office for a president in the US as the example.
And we've got now a completely new type of vehicle. We haven't even talked AI. Throw the AI in there and what it can do when it's built in. Because hold on a second, the cars are full of computers that are listening, and you can prompt it. Maybe we don't have our policy hasn't even been dreamed up to get anywhere near that yet. It's all happening.
People making the policies probably don't even know how to update their phone.
People making the policies.
Majority of people in office are in their 60s, right?
People making the policies are saying, you know what? Let's let the industries do this. Let's let this be industry driven and industry policed because they'll do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, there was an article which I think has now been somewhat debunked, shall we say. But there was apparently a US Air Force artificial intelligence simulation, and it was they trained this AI model to act as a drone in this computer program, and it was rewarded with points, whatever that would be, to take out targets. So in real life, this would be a drone picking out targets in the battlefield.
Yeah.
And it got points for doing that. Then it ran the simulation of a ceasefire or a truce or whatever you want to call that. So the operator told the drone, stop. I'm still in the middle of reading conflicting articles on it, but you just mentioned AI there. The drone, because it was then being restricted on winning its points, killed the operator in the simulation.
Of course it did.
So then they were like, okay, we should have seen that one come in. That's our own fault. So they rewrote its code, never ever kill a human. So do the same thing again. Right. Truce, stop killing. So the drone's like, now what? I've got no meaning to my life now. I've got nothing. I'm a destroying machine and I can't destroy. So what am I supposed to do? So the drone took out the communication tower, of course, in the simulation, so they couldn't get the message. Right. Again, I'm reading back and forth between a few things where it seems to have been debunked a little bit by the US Air Force, but I think they're just worried about the Skynet. But artificial intelligence is an interesting one. And that is the exact same thing as somebody being sat in the pub with their mates and their partner calling them on the phone and them not answering it because they're supposed to be on the way home.
Yeah.
That's intelligence. Whether it's right or wrong ethically, it's intelligence because you're using your brain to make a conscious decision to do something in your own benefit. And artificial intelligence, I can't see why. If the way they explained it in this article is that the intelligence has to have a meaning to what it's doing, you have to reward it, just like you're training a dog, then that becomes an issue. And we've seen it with humans, where it's very difficult to get humans to do things selflessly for the greater good. It's very, very difficult. In fact, the people that do it are known and famous for it because it's so rare. So I think it's very hard to imagine AI piloting a car specifically taught to keep its occupants safe. There's a brick wall, there's a lorry, and there's a bus stop with a queue of kids on it. The safest thing for the car to hit is the kids, because it keeps everyone in the car safe because it's going to do very little damage to the car. It's not going for the wall or the truck. It's going to go into the queue of people at the side of the road. I'm not a computer coder, and I don't know
have the right
about
parameters put in. That's the thing. It's got to be taught.
But then it just constantly. And look, we've had a legal system in the UK for hundreds and hundreds of years, and a lot of people cite it as kind of particularly in the Western world, the framework of what a lot of legal systems and democracies were built upon. And all of these other places that have used it, and including the UK, it's been over 1,000 years probably that they've had some kind of system. There's loopholes in it.
Yeah.
How do you write a code that's foolproof?
That's the problem.
You know? How do you do it? Human beings living together somewhat symbiotically, I guess you'd say, can't do it. So how do you write code for an individual AI program? And all these AI programs have to be connected because they have to have some way of being connected and communicating. Otherwise, my autonomous vehicle will do what it wants, regardless of what yours wants to do. And then if you're a midwife on call or a heart surgeon that's rushing to an emergency, should that be taken into account by me, who's just trying to get to the pub to see my mates?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, it's big.
Who has that?
I think part of that whole discussion of AI and how we're going to use it in different contexts, and in the context of the garage, goes back to the other day when we got together and we were doing some filming, and there was some scripting that had been enhanced using AI, and you were looking at it and you're going, I can't say this doesn't sound like me. And I think that's the whole challenge with AI. And everyone says, just wait. My buddy Richard K. Wood, just wait, it's going to get really good, just wait. But there's been some discussions with OpenAI and some of the folks who are working with Sam Altman on Sam Altman's team saying, okay, well, people are saying the newest versions of OpenAI's software, and they're saying, no, nothing's been updated, but it just learns, isn't as good as it was a while back. Some people who are doing coding and playing with coding with OpenAI saying it's not as good. And the programmers saying it's just learning. And they have put in a few restrictions on it. And with those new restrictions and the way it's learning, it changes things. And I think it's almost our thirst for shortcuts. And I get it because it does speed a lot of stuff up. But it's figuring out, where does it speed up and where do I have to intervene? And in the larger picture of automobile safety, bringing it all back, there's, yes, the computer can do things, but if it has to make that decision, do I hit the lorry? Do I hit the wall? Do I hit the kids? That's where
you have effectively then, back to what we've said about people suing, you then have a road accident, you have a road traffic accident. Somebody, regardless, has been hurt in the choice of hit an immovable object or hit a queue of children at a bus stop. No matter which way it goes, the car hurts somebody. So then, legally, the manufacturer of the vehicle and the AI system are culpable for an event where somebody's been hurt.
There was very recently an accident in Canada, and I don't remember which part. It could have been in Toronto. Maybe it was just north of Toronto, where someone driving a vehicle literally stopped on the highway. We're talking it's probably 120, 140 speed limit there. I think Joey Woo was on this highway quite a bit. They stopped on the highway.
Lasagna.
They stopped on the highway because a gaggle of geese was crossing, or a goose and its goslings were crossing. So they stopped. But in the process of stopping to a dead stop to let them stop, a semi-trailer coming behind him didn't see this, slams on the brakes. He flips his vehicle. I don't know if people died. It's in the ditch. Traffic is stopped now for half of a day, all because of some geese. Which I'm thinking the computer would have said, "Look, it's sad. It's wildlife." But
that's what we're taught on the UK driving license in the highway code. I asked the question of my driving instructor because I stopped when a cat ran out in front of me, and he said, "If you do that on your test, you'll fail." He says, "Even if you hesitate, you'll fail. Instant major, and you'll fail." And it's like,
but it just goes against everything in our.
You've got people. You've got to worry about the road users, and And
in that sense, you almost want the automatic system to take over and take the moral blame for but it's got to make that judgment. But how is it going to deal if suddenly it's a toddler on a bicycle that's come out? And we've all seen those ads where the car stops. What we haven't seen is the ad where it's kind of a busy street. The car stops. What about the rest of the vehicles? And that's where the whole argument then comes out. This is where we want our cars to actually communicate to each other and across brands, so that when my car says, "Oh, something's going on," it's sending a signal to everything within 100 meters to know, okay, you got to adjust things.
But can you genuinely see Ford and General Motors sharing tech?
No.
You know, are you going to see a Ford production plant and a General Motors production plant openly and happily having their AI systems communicate back and forth with technology on them?
All I could think about is a two-tiered system. So you've got your proprietary closed system that communicates with a module that is doing the communication with the vehicles around, and everyone's using that same communication system.
There are some networks of communication between traffic management. So on the Audis in the US, with this set up on the GPS, you can set, and I think they used an example of a road in LA. I don't know, never been, but there was a road in LA, and I think there was 15 sets of traffic lights, crosswalk traffic lights.
I get that.
The Audi, you can set your destination past these, and you can set it to miss red.
Oh.
And it will set your speed based on the change of the traffic lights so that you don't ever stop.
All right.
As long as you hit the first one on green, you'll never stop till the end, because it will set the speed properly. So I love that. Great, but not everybody can do it.
Right.
So not everybody can do it, because once you've got, I don't know what the distance and stretch is, but let's say you've got 100 Audis on that road, they aren't all getting through, so they can't all do it. But my point is that it shows that there is a network between traffic management and the onboard vehicle management. So that's already in existence.
Yeah.
The interesting things to me become, for example, it's illegal technically to drive your vehicle and run out of fuel on an internal combustion engine. That is technically illegal. That's dangerous driving. You've caused a hazard by stopping on the road. Yeah. Okay. If you get stopped because you run out of fuel and the police come to assist you and you run out of fuel, technically that's illegal. How far they stretch, I think they're going to certainly frown upon it, because they've now had to stop and protect your vehicle while they put theirs at danger because you've run out of fuel. So anyway, let's say you have an EV and it's squeaky bum time. You're down to 10% battery. You've got to get to work. You forgot to put it on charge. You've got to get to work.
Yeah.
But that EV's like, nah. Potential for traffic, potential for issues. It's too hot outside. The AC is going to drain too much battery power. Or it's too cold. The heater's going to, whatever it may be. No, not taking today. Plug me in. Or it just goes off the road and stops at a charging station, right? Because why wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Why would you have AI to worry about hitting things on the road if you're not going to have it worry about its own maintenance? It's due a service every 20,000 miles. You don't service it. I'm not taking you anywhere then.
Yeah.
You take me to the repair shop, or I ain't taking you anywhere. And it sounds like, it sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud, but it's the only common sense thing to have. Yeah. For cars to look after themselves, that's what garages have always wanted. That's what mechanics have always wanted. I got an inquiry yesterday from a customer saying, I've got a Prado and it's done 200,000 kilometers now, and it's only ever been looked after by such and such a garage, and I service it very regularly. I service it at least every 50,000 kilometers. What? It's regular, but it's not regular enough. Now that wouldn't have ever been able to happen with artificial intelligence, because it's going to be like, no, you're going to screw the car up.
Yeah.
No. So
that's, that could be a very positive side.
It could be good for the repair industry, but the repair industry don't buy the cars. It's the owner of the car that buys the car.
But I always want to go back to that for a second. I love this idea that my AI in my vehicle, and I need to have a minor service, and your minor service, road service is going to show up. It's pre-scheduling and it's telling me, hey, I'm going to be at this place because it knows my pattern. I'm going to be at Zide University, and PowerWorks Mobile Garage shows up to do a minor service on my vehicle and bills me because it's all built in.
Oh, well, now we're getting onto the digital wallet and all sorts of...
It all connects with the AI, right? I mean, it's going to send me a prompt. Do you agree to this? And it's going to have this. But wouldn't that be nice?
It would. It depends how conservative you are with your views. I mean, I don't, this is... Tesla cars do that already. Tesla cars can schedule their own service appointments, and if they have a fault, they will alert service and you. I think you get a message on your phone or your app or whatever. So they can. So it already happens.
So it happens on the electric. I wanted to buy internal combustion.
Yeah, I think we're going to struggle on the Wranglers.
Yeah, but maybe not the new ones. There's the new electric ones.
Yeah.
Joey's driving that one, and I'm getting envy.
Yeah,
seeing some of the features.
Yeah, I mean that's the common sense part.
Yeah.
That's not fair. That's the mechanic in me thinking that's common sense to have a management system on the car that will check for faults and will check and make sure it's serviced on time before it allows itself to be used. But there has to be a master position in the relationship between the owner and the vehicle. Surely there has to be.
Yeah, but we're lazy.
No, that is what it is. DJ said the exact same thing yesterday. We were talking about the drone simulation. And DJ said to me, he said, this is all just because we want to be the Jetsons.
Yeah.
This is all it is.
Yeah.
Just lazy. Because I can remember Tomorrow's World when I was a kid. My granddad used to watch Tomorrow's World. And it was a BBC programme that was all about what's going to be like in the future. They got a lot of things they were way off with the times, but they got a lot of things pretty spot on. And, you got these cartoons like the Jetsons and stuff like that where they predict flying cars and no one walks anywhere. It's all moving platforms and everything else. But every single justification for every single technological invention was in the future, and by the future they were talking about like the 90s, people will have more time. People have more time to themselves. People have never worked longer hours than they work now.
Yeah.
But the whole reason for everything was so that everyone had more personal time, more social time to do what they wanted to do. And I mean, it doesn't seem to be going that way. But but the reason for all of this is out of pure laziness.
Speaking of electrics and electric things, have you noticed that the number of people now who are on electric scooters and what happened to the push scooter that people used to use, or
used to do a paper round on one of the aluminium push scooters,
bicycles? I mean, I still see people on bikes, but it seems a lot of people who are on bicycles have abandoned them for these electric scooters or electric things. I'm this is like a 2-year window. And it's gone crazy.
It's because they're 1,000 dirhams to buy, and you can fold them up and take them on the metro and the public transport, and it's quicker and easier, and over a year probably already cheaper than getting a bus. And the bus stop is never where you work; it's always down the road. It's summer a lot.
I see these electric scooters as a great stopgap between getting to my bus stop, getting from my bus stop to my office, but I just. What worries me is people used to get a little bit more exercise, and now, they've got more time to sit around and have a coffee and an eclair, and they're just standing there. Where's the exercise gone?
No, there isn't any. I mean, I've been on a couple of them. I mean, the core engagement is quite intense to start with, but that's about it. Once you get used to that, it's second nature. But the one for me, now to be fair, the RTA here, so the Road Traffic Authority here, and the police do require that anyone using one on the road has a permit. If they stop you and you haven't got one, I think they do. But you have to, I think it's 200 dirhams plus a fee to pay for the permit. You have to wear a high-vis piece of clothing on the upper body, and you have to wear a helmet, which is good, right? My issue is a couple of things. One is, just like bikes, I don't know why, they seem to be on the opposite side of the road coming towards you, which is a pain.
Well, they're not following the rules.
But also, when I do the school drop-off in the morning, there's parents with their kids on the front of them.
No.
Like 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, kids on the front of them.
Yeah, no. Without a helmet?
It's a disaster waiting to happen. In fairness, you see a lot of them with helmets, not all of them. A lot of them with helmets, but that's like asking for trouble.
You get the bike lane, get the kids on a bicycle, leave the bike there, you go home. I mean, I just think that's the way, and it gets kids some exercise.
Well, we built that like 8-person sort of bike thing for the school that my kids are at, and they've agreed a parking space about 600-700 meters away with a mosque, with a local mosque, and they're allowing parents to drive past the school to stop the gridlock, park in the car park, and they'll do shuttles up and down with the bike. And if it gets taken on by just 20 kids, that's 20 fewer cars going in the car park, which frees up the traffic movement. And it also, instills a bit of get some physical activity in the kids, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's everything's done for us now, Everything's done for us, and I think it's going to be very hard to shake that soon.
On that note, it's been a fun podcast. Did we talk about cars? We did at some point.
We talked a lot about cars. A lot about cars.
I had some great notes in here. What's going on in the shop? I wanted to talk about bent rims. I wanted to talk about plastics. DJ was talking about a Alpha and the door latches on the inside and how
Did he tell you about the AC drain?
No.
An absolute shambles of a vehicle. He's sat behind you now. So the Alpha there behind you. And
Is this the white one?
the red one.
Oh, the red one. Okay. No, we were looking at the white one because it was in it. We were
Rip
looking
door
at
handles off without even trying. Ridiculous.
and so he's fixed them with plastic staples, which I'd never heard of. I thought, okay, this is a whole other conversation we'll have to have. But we were looking at that Alpha, and the lease price or the price for a payment is better than renting. Except that, and he says with the staples that he's put in,
Do you know what the irony is?
What's the irony?
That was a former rental car that's now being sold, and it's cheaper to buy it on plan than it is to rent it. The Alpha that's on the ramp behind you, that came in because the AC was flooding because the condensation wasn't draining out.
Okay.
To get to the drain to unblock it, you either take the dashboard out, or take the gearbox out.
Neither of those are pleasant. Who's thinking at Alpha?
No one.
Yeah.
Nobody. No one knows whose job it is. Fiat, Maserati, and Alpha in the room, all sort of bowing down to the Ferrari guy at the end, and then they're like, oh no, we better make a car. Let's do this. Where are we putting the AC drain out?
Doesn't matter.
I forgot it.
Yeah.
There's a gearbox gone in yet. Now we'll put a straw up there. Go McDonald's and get a straw and put that up there before you put the gearbox in then. But seriously,
you see, and you look at the Alpha and you sit in it. It's a wonderful car, and then you start thinking about some of these that little thing, like just from an owner's perspective. If I now need to unblock that drip, that water escape, what's that going to cost me?
Well, the Giulietta that we talked about, the door handles. The first one that we saw was someone that my wife works with, and she's a big gym goer into CrossFit, and she's really strong. So we just thought that she'd rip the handle off with like some sort of post-gym pump. Yeah. And then we see another one, and another one, and another one, and another. And it's probably not politically necessarily perfectly correct to say, but it is a very feminine car, and I think they are popular with women. But all the ones we've had have been women driving them. Handle broken, and it's obviously just that. But guess what? You have to buy the whole door. You can't just get the handle, buy a door. Oh yeah, okay, all right. Well, if I've got to, how much is it? Well, it's 4 million dirhams, and we haven't got one. It was 72 days to get it. Yeah. No exaggeration on the time.
Yeah. I mean, unbelievable.
So yeah, DJ's repaired more than 2 or 3 now, I guess.
That should be a warning flag going up. Like, these things are going to break. They're plastic.
That's the sort of thing that should be recalled and improved. Absolutely. We used to do things like that on Volkswagens all the time, where people have given feedback, this is no good, and they're saying, that's 2 or 3 that have said that, let's fix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even just when it's in for service.
Yeah.
The amount of times we've done stuff like that.
If you're doing it, people taking them back to the dealer are noticing this, and they're not just noticing it here. This is worldwide. And then people wonder why people don't want to buy certain car brands. Well, that's why. Because they've got a friend who said, oh yeah, this went in my car, and it's cost me 3 days in the shop and 2 months rent. I can't afford this vehicle anymore. So On that note, Glenn, it's been a lot of fun as always. Glenn Power, PowerWorks Garage. It's the PowerWorks Podcast. However you're watching or listening to us, subscribe, like, comment. We want to hear from you. What you love, what you think's boring, questions, queries, fire them to us. We will answer them on the show. But thank you for being with us. And Glenn, thanks for doing this once again.
James.
You've been listening to the PowerWorks Podcast. My name is James Pikeway. Glenn Power joining me. We'll talk to you again real soon.